This is a place for planting, for digging, for harvesting, for relaxing. It's a place to get your hands dirty, but most of all, it's about having fun. And that's what you'll always have when you're in the garden with Doug Oster. You want a green thumb too, don't you? Well, today we're learning all about pruning. This could definitely use a little bit of a trim. Follow me. When we are working on a tree in general, how much can we take off?
If the tree is healthy, the guidelines hover somewhere around 25% live branches. So you shouldn't remove any more than that without risking the health of the tree.
So what's the first thing we should do when we look at a tree like this?
Well, the first thing I like to do is, first of all, figure out what kind of tree it is. In this case, we know it's an elm tree. And knowing what species it is tells us how the tree is going to grow during its lifetime. And that's important for the decisions we make while we're pruning it.
You know it's going to get how tall?
Well, if this tree was out in nature, it could get up, 50, 60, 70 feet. In an urban setting like this, hopefully it'll grow for another 20, 30 years and still get pretty tall. It could get as tall as that street light right there.
What are the first cuts you think we're going to do?
Well, looking at this tree, immediately I see that there are suckers growing from the base of it. And so that's going to be what I aim for first.
Well, Jasmine tells us it's 45 minutes from rain. Let's get to work.
All right, sounds good.
Well, the first thing I noticed before we even started cutting was you're spraying something on the blade.
Yeah, I'm spraying. This is just standard isopropyl rubbing alcohol. And we spray it on our tools in between each tree that we prune in order to sterilize the blades. Because it's possible to transfer a disease from one tree to another via pruning tools. And so we take that really seriously.
That's good to know. And what are we pruning here? What do we call these?
So we've got some suckers here. These are just growths that come out of the base of the trunk of the tree. It's natural for trees to do this when they experience a little bit of stress. But
you can see on this side something.
Yeah, something. Yeah, it looks like maybe a car hit it or something hit it over here. But it's for aesthetic purposes, it's not really nice to have these because then you wind up with a little bit more of a bush than a tree.
If I was looking at this one, I would have no idea. Here we've got something we cut, right, I can see where that's going to come off, but this is kind of going to the trunk.
Yeah.
Where are you going to cut?
Well, I'm going to probably just try to cut out some of these little guys that are in my way, and then I'm going to focus on the main sucker there. Once we've gotten these sort of littler suckers out of our way, just so we have some room to work, I'm going to now come in and just cut off this main sucker right here, and I'll just right across.
And a sharp saw is important, right?
Yes, sharp saw. Not only is it important for making a nice healthy cut on the tree, but it's important for saving your arm. It can be pretty tiring to cut.
How long will a blade like that stay sharp, or can it be sharpened?
These specific blades are a little bit tough to sharp, so we generally just purchase new ones. Yeah. But they do stay sharp for quite a long time.
All right, that's the biggest sucker gone. This one's got to go too, right?
Yep. All right, so that one's gone. We'll come in. This one will be a little bit easier, so I'll just come in from the top here.
So on this one here, how close do we get to the trunk?
On this one, you can kind of tell there's a little bit of a branch bark ridge up here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start there and just kind of come down a little bit of an outward angle away from the tree.
You don't want it to rip off the bark. You want to zip right through there, right?
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
All right, these little guys come off too?
Yep.
All right, what's after this? What are we going to do after this?
After this, we'll look for dead or damaged or diseased branches in the canopy of the tree.
So in the winter, how do we know what's dead and what's alive here?
That's a great question, because in the winter, it can be hard to tell what's dead. But the way I do it is by looking at the buds. If we look at any of these live branches, you can see that it has these nice, plump, fat little buds on it.
Plus, this is pretty supple.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to crack
when
off.
I bend this branch, exactly, it's flexible. So we know this branch is alive. But if you look around in the tree, you might start to see some branches that don't have any buds on them, and that's a dead giveaway that the branch is dead.
And that just snips right off.
Exactly, and when you touch it, those little twigs just snap right off. So we see one dead branch right there that we should target for cutting out of there.
And again, where are you gonna get to it from here? Is that the idea?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the branch is dead on this side and live on this side, but given the fact that this living part is going out into the street and we want to get rid of it anyway, I think I'm going to take Both of these leads off with one cut at the trunk.
That's something I didn't think about. Since it's a straight tree, you got people walking on this side, driving on that side. Could be a driveway, could be the same thing. It's got to come off because you don't want a truck or something hitting it.
Exactly, yeah. And even though these branches are kind of short right now, they're going to keep growing out. So you might as well cut them off now when they're small rather than waiting a few years till they're big.
That makes sense.
So we'll cut this branch out of here.
I like this because I don't have to do anything. So back in the day for this cut, we would put tree goop on there, but nowadays that's not the way you do it, right?
Yeah. The research these days suggests that using a wound paint doesn't really help the tree heal any faster. The best thing to do is make a good pruning cut and then just let the wound be and let the tree do the healing on its own.
Well, I know this one's got to come off. Show us the proper way to cut a branch this size off, because it's not going to be just one cut, right?
That's right. I'm going to use 3 separate cuts.
All right, let's take a look. So even I know if we make one cut here, that's going to be bad because it's going to just tear stuff off here, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and unfortunately you see that really often. So the way to avoid that happening is to make three cuts. The first cut we make is right here on the underside.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and make this cut. I just go maybe a third of the way, halfway through, and that's kind of like our firewall. And then I come outside on the top from that, and I make this cut. And as you can see, this is going to come down, and it might break off, but just to show you, let's go ahead and rip it.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see that bark wanted to rip all the way down. And if we hadn't made that first cut, it would have done that.
Makes sense.
So that's a good way to get that branch out of our way. Now we can just focus on this little stub and making a proper pruning cut so the tree will heal. All right, now we're ready to make our final pruning cut. And to do this, I'm going to look at this top part, which is called the branch bark ridge, and this little swollen area right here called the branch collar. And I'm going to aim my cut to go from the branch bark ridge across the branch to the very outside of that branch collar. And by doing that, we should have a wound that heals as fast as possible.
This, for me, is where it gets hard. You've eliminated stuff that's in the way that has to get out of here. How do I know what on the inside needs to come out without ruining the look of the tree?
That's a great question. And every tree is a little bit different, but if you just kind of follow a sequence of events, and you're going to be good to go. So again, we got the stuff that's going to be in the way of the street and pedestrians.
Got the dead wood out.
That's right, yeah. And now we just need to look at what kind of branches might be competing with the trunk for resources.
Anything that's touching another branch, right? We want to get out of there.
Yeah, anytime there's branches that are rubbing each other,
right.
That's something you want to look for. So if you just focus on those couple little principles, it's pretty easy to really just break it down and figure out what you need to do.
Well, thank you very much. I sure appreciate it.
Hey,
now load up all this stuff. We're going to my house. I got 4 acres of forest that needs to be pruned. All
right, sounds like fun.
Thank you. For more information about everything we talked about today, along with other stories, columns, pictures, and videos about gardening, check me out online. Until next week, it looks like there's a lot of work that's been done here, but I'm sure they're not done yet. We'll see you then. It started to rain.